We're always told having a big heart is a blessing, but no one talks about how lonely it can get. Have you ever felt like you were everything to someone until the day you had nothing left to give? Have you ever opened your heart again and again, only to realize people were not loving you, they were just using you? Stay with me, because this story might change how you see love forever. In a quiet village tucked between two soft hills, there was someone like that. Her name was Alara. The village itself wasn't anything special, a few winding roads, small houses, and fields that stretched just far enough to meet the horizon. Life there moved slowly. People knew each other. Stories traveled fast. And somehow, Alara was part of almost every story. If someone's roof started leaking during the rain, she'd show up without being asked. If a child got sick, she'd sit beside their bed through the night, barely sleeping. If someone was going through a hard time, she didn't try to fix everything. She just stayed, quietly, until they felt a little less alone. People would smile when they talked about her. Alara? Yeah, she's got the biggest heart I've ever seen. And the truth is, Alara liked hearing that, not because she wanted attention, but because it made her feel like she mattered, like she had a place in this world. Helping people gave her something she couldn't quite explain, a kind of calm, a kind of purpose. And over time, without even realizing it, she became the person everyone leaned on, the one who never said no, the one who always gave. Alara's home sat at the edge of the village, where the road turned quiet and the evenings felt a little longer than usual. It was a simple place, wooden walls, a small kitchen, and a window that looked out over her slowly fading garden. That's where Rowan lived with her. Rowan wasn't a bad man. If you asked anyone in the village, they'd say he was decent, hardworking, quiet, the kind of person who didn't cause trouble. But living with him felt different. When things were easy, Rowan would be warm. He would sit with Alara during dinner, tell small stories about his day, even laugh sometimes. In those moments, it felt like everything was okay, like this was what love was supposed to be. But when life got heavy, something in him would shut off. He wouldn't argue. He wouldn't explain. He would just disappear into himself. Days would pass where he barely spoke. He stopped noticing the little things, like how Alara stayed up late waiting for him, or how she tried to keep the house feeling alive even when everything felt quiet. And Alara? She filled that silence. She brought him food without asking if he was hungry. She sat beside him, even when he didn't speak. She kept trying, gently, patiently, hoping he'd come back to her. And eventually, he always did. He would smile again, talk again, act like nothing had happened. And Alara would tell herself the same thing every time. This is just how love works. People have hard days. She never stopped to ask one simple question. What about her hard days? Because somewhere along the way, Alara learned how to carry love, but forgot what it felt like to receive it. Liza never knocked softly. You could always tell it was her before you even opened the door. Fast footsteps, a rushed breath, and then a quick, uneven knock, like something inside her couldn't wait. Alara would open the door, and there she was, hair slightly messy, eyes tired, voice already halfway into a story. You won't believe what happened this time. And just like that, Liza would walk in. She was the kind of person people liked right away. Loud, funny, full of energy. When she laughed, the whole room felt lighter. When she talked, you couldn't help but listen. But there was something else about her too. She only came when something was wrong. Another argument, another heartbreak, another moment where life didn't go the way she expected. And every time, she came to Alara. They would sit for hours, sometimes on the small couch, sometimes on the kitchen floor with 2 cups of tea going cold beside them. Liza would talk non-stop about what happened, how she felt, how unfair everything was. Alara would listen. She'd nod, ask gentle questions, say the right things at the right time. She knew how to make people feel heard, safe, and slowly you could see it happening. Liza's shoulders would relax, her voice would steady, her breathing would slow. By the time she left, she felt lighter. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she'd say, smiling as she walked out. And Elora would smile back. But once the door closed, the house felt heavier than before. The silence pressed a little deeper. And for a moment, just a moment, Elora would sit there feeling drained in a way she couldn't quite explain. But she always pushed that feeling away. "That's what friends are for," she'd tell herself. She never noticed the pattern. Liza came when she needed something and left when she felt better. And Elora, she stayed exactly where she was, carrying everything that was never hers to begin with. Kieran showed up the way trouble usually does. Quiet at first, then everywhere at once. He was young, maybe 16, always moving like he had somewhere else to be. People in the village talked about him in low voices. Skipped school, got into fights, stayed out late. No one expected much from him anymore. But somehow, he kept ending up at Elora's door. The first time, it was for food. He stood there, hands in his pockets, not really looking at her. "You got anything to eat?" he asked, like it didn't matter either way. Elora didn't ask questions. She just stepped aside and said, "Come in." After that, it became a habit. He'd show up at odd hours, sometimes hungry, sometimes angry, sometimes just quiet. Elora would make him something simple, bread, soup, whatever she had, and sit across from him while he ate. At first, he'd barely speak, but Elora had patience. She didn't push him, didn't lecture. She just stayed there, steady and calm until his walls started to drop. Little by little, he opened up. About school, about people who didn't believe in him, about how everything felt confusing all the time. One evening, after a long silence, he looked up at her and said, "You know, you're kinda like a mom to me." It wasn't a big speech, just a simple sentence, but it hit her harder than anything else. Something inside Elora softened. She felt important, like she was making a difference. After that, she gave even more. Money when he asked, advice when he didn't, time always. And every time he came back, it confirmed something she had started to believe, that being needed was the same as being valued. She didn't realize yet how different those two things really were. At first, Elora didn't notice anything changing. Life looked the same from the outside. People still came to her, the door still opened, the kettle still boiled more times than it probably should. If anything, she felt busier, more needed than ever. But something small had started to shift. Her garden was the first sign. There was a time when she used to spend quiet mornings there, watering the plants, trimming leaves, just enjoying the stillness before the day began. It was her space, her pause. Now the soil was dry. A few plants had already withered, their leaves curling in on themselves. She noticed it one afternoon while rushing back inside, but she didn't stop. "I'll take care of it tomorrow," she thought. But tomorrow kept getting replaced by someone else's problem. Her sleep was next. Nights became shorter, not because she wanted them to, but because there was always something or someone needing her. Rowan sat in silence again. Lisa called late, voice shaking. Kieran showed up, restless and upset. Elora answered every time, even when her body felt heavy, even when her eyes burned from exhaustion. She kept telling herself, "They need me," and somehow that felt more important than how she felt. Then came the quiet moments, the ones in between everything. She would sit alone for a minute, just a minute, and feel this strange emptiness settle in her chest. Not sadness exactly, just kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. But she ignored it, because slowing down meant thinking. In thinking meant asking questions she wasn't ready to face. So she kept going, kept giving, kept showing up, kept putting herself last, until one day her body made a decision for her, and everything she had been avoiding finally caught up with her. It didn't happen all at once. There was no big moment, no warning sign that something was about to break. Just a quiet morning where Hilara couldn't get out of bed. At first, she thought it was just exhaustion. "I'll rest for a bit," she told herself. But her body felt heavier than usual. Her arms didn't want to move. Even sitting up felt like too much. Hours passed. The sunlight shifted across the room, slowly climbing the wall, and Elora just lay there, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't doing anything for anyone, and it felt strange. By afternoon, Rowan noticed. He stood by the door, looking unsure. "You okay?" he asked. Ilara gave a small nod. "Just tired." He hesitated, then stepped in. He brought her water, later some food. He tried in his own way, but something about it felt distant, like he was helping because he had to, not because he knew how to be there. The next day was the same, and the day after that, Ilara didn't get up. She couldn't. Her body had finally reached its limit. So she waited, not just to feel better, but for something else, for someone to show up the way she always did for them. Liza came once. She sat on the edge of the bed, held Elora's hand for a moment, her face soft with concern. But it didn't last. Soon enough, her voice shifted. "I've been going through so much lately." And just like before, the conversation turned. Elora listened quietly, too tired to respond. Kieran didn't come. Not that day, not the next. Nothing. Days stretched longer. The room grew quieter, and Elora began to understand something she had never really faced before. Being the one who always shows up doesn't mean anyone will show up for you. And in that silence, something inside her started to change. By the fourth day, the house had gone completely quiet. No footsteps rushing to the door, no late-night conversations, no one asking for anything. For the first time in years, Ilara had nothing to give, and strangely, no one seemed to notice. She spent most of her time staring at the ceiling, watching the light shift, listening to the faint sounds outside, the wind, distant voices, life moving on without her. At first, she thought she would feel angry or hurt or abandoned, but what she felt instead was something else, something deeper, something quieter. Clarity. Her mind began replaying everything, all the nights she stayed awake for others, all the times she said yes when she was already exhausted, all the moments she chose someone else over herself. She remembered Liza's laughter and how it always came after she had poured everything out. She remembered Rowan's silence and how she filled it without ever asking why she had to. She remembered Kieran's words, "You're like a mother to me," and how much she gave after that. And slowly, piece by piece, a truth started forming. No one had really asked how she was doing. Not once. Not when she was tired. Not when she was overwhelmed. Not even now. It wasn't because they were evil. It was because they had gotten used to something. They had gotten used to her always being okay, always being strong, always being there. And Ilara had taught them that. A small breath left her lips, not heavy, not broken, just real. "I thought this was love," she whispered to herself. But now, lying there in the stillness, she finally saw the difference. Love doesn't only show up when it needs something. Love stays, even when there's nothing left to take. And that realization, it didn't shatter her, it woke her up. 2 weeks later, Ilara finally stepped outside. Her legs felt weak, like they didn't fully trust her yet. The sunlight hit her eyes a little too bright, and for a second she just stood there, breathing it in. Everything looked the same road, the same quiet houses, the same slow-moving life. But she didn't feel the same. She walked toward her garden. It used to be her favorite place, a small corner of peace where things grew because she cared for them. Now it looked tired. The soil was dry and cracked. The plants had faded into brittle stems. Leaves that once felt alive now crumbled at the touch. Ilara knelt down slowly. She ran her fingers through the dirt, letting it fall between her hands. For a moment, she just stayed there. No rushing, no one calling her name, no one needing anything. And then, quietly, she started. She pulled out the dead plants, one by one, cleared the space, made room. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It was simple, but it meant something. This time, she wasn't doing it for anyone else. No one would see it. No one would thank her. And for the first time, that didn't matter. Later that morning, she made herself breakfast, sat down, ate slowly, no distractions, no interruptions, just her. It felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable, but also peaceful. That day, Ilara made a quiet decision. She wouldn't stop caring. She wouldn't turn cold, but she would stop losing herself in the process. She would still give, but not from emptiness. She would still love, but not from fear. And as the sun moved across the sky, something small but real began to grow again, not just in her garden, but inside her. A few days later, there was a knock on the door. Ilara was in the kitchen, cutting some fruit for herself. She paused for a second, took a quiet breath, then walked over and opened it. It was Liza. Same energy, same fast breathing, same look like something had already gone wrong. "You have no idea what just happened," she started, stepping inside like she always did. But this time, something was different. Ilara didn't rush to sit, didn't immediately ask what was wrong. She gently raised her hand. "Hey, before you start, can I say something first?" Liza blinked, a little confused. Yeah, sure." Ilara took a moment, not because she didn't know what to say, but because she wanted to say it right. "I care about you," she began, calm and steady. "I really do, but lately, I've been feeling drained, like I'm always listening but never being heard." Liza didn't interrupt. For once, she just stood there. "When I was sick, I needed someone too, and you weren't really there." The room went quiet, not tense, not angry, just honest. Liza looked down for a moment. "I didn't realize," she said quietly. "I thought you were okay. You're always okay." Ilara gave a small nod. "That's the problem," she replied. Something shifted right there. Not perfectly, not instantly, but enough. Later that week, Rowan came home earlier than usual. He stood in the doorway, watching Ilara water her garden. "It looks better," he said. Ilara smiled slightly. "It's getting there." He hesitated, then asked, "How are you feeling, really?" It was a simple question, but it landed differently. For the first time, Ilara didn't brush it off. And somewhere between those small moments, a conversation with Liza, a question from Rowan, things started to change. Not because Ilara gave more, but because she finally started asking for something back. Time passed quietly after that. Not in big, dramatic ways, but in small moments that slowly began to feel different. Ilara's garden started to come back to life. Tiny green shoots pushed through the soil. Leaves opened again, soft and new. It wasn't perfect. Some plants didn't make it, but the ones that did felt stronger. And in a strange way, Ilara felt the same. Liza still came by, but now things were different. Sometimes she would stop herself mid-sentence and say, "Wait, how are you doing?" It wasn't perfect. Sometimes she forgot, but she was trying. And this time, Ilara noticed. Rowan changed too, slowly. He didn't become a different person overnight, but he stayed more, he listened more. And sometimes, in the quiet of the evening, he would sit beside Ilara and simply ask, "Do you need anything?" And this time, Ilara answered honestly. One afternoon, there was a soft knock on the door. Ilara opened it and found Kieran standing there. He looked different, quieter, a little unsure. "I heard you were sick. I should have come, but I didn't know how." Ilara looked at him for a moment. Then she said gently, "People who care show up." Kieran nodded, taking that in, and somehow that one sentence meant more than everything she had given him before. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Ilara sat outside. The air was calm, the world felt still, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel tired. She felt clear, because she finally understood something simple but powerful. Being needed is not the same as being loved. People will need you for what you give, but real love chooses you even when you have nothing left to offer. So if you're someone who always shows up for others, ask yourself one honest question. When you had nothing left, who stayed? Because the truth is, the right people won't just come to you when they need something. They'll come because they care. They'll stay because they choose you. And that kind of love, it doesn't drain you, it grows with you.